Disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Black Cat Crossing Podcast. The information provided in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. All rights reserved.
Before we begin, we want to inform our audience that this episode contains discussions about sensitive topics, including slavery, abuse, medical experimentation, mental health, and sexual abuse of a minor. If any of these topics are distressing or triggering for you, we encourage you to refrain from listening further. Your well-being is important to us, and we respect your boundaries.
Welcome to another spine-tingling episode of the Black Cat Crossing Podcast. I'm your host, Z, joined by my fellow enthusiasts of the eerie, Soli and Barry. Today we embark on a chilling journey into the depths of the infamous Lalaurie Mansion, a place from its opulent facade to the gruesome secrets hidden within its walls. The Lalaurie Mansion holds a dark allure that has captivated the imaginations of thrill seekers and ghost hunters alike. Join us as we uncover the horrors that lurk within her haunted domain. So grab your headphones and brace yourself for a bone-chilling adventure into the heart of darkness on Black Cat Crossing. Nestled amidst the vibrant streets of New Orleans' French Quarter lies a mansion steeped in infamy and intrigue. The Lalaurie Mansion, its elegant facade, belies a dark history that continues to captivate the imagination of visitors and locals alike. At the center of this chilling tale is Madame Delphine Lalaurie, a figure whose name evokes both fascination and dread, from her privileged upbringing to the harrowing events that unfolded within the mansion's walls. The story of Madame Lalaurie is one of wealth, power, and unspeakable cruelty. I am so glad you're reading this one because I can't read today.
So what I find that's so cute is the way you pronounce her last name, and I'm wondering if it is a case where that's how it's supposed to be pronounced, or if I'm pronouncing it
How do you pronounce it?
Head. I say Lalaurie.
Lalaurie. Oh, I don't know.
But I don't know. It could be Madame Lalaurie.
Lalaurie.
So, yeah. I'm not sure, like I said, if it's because it never occurred to me to pronounce it the way that you are doing it, and I think it's just so cute.
I'm probably pronouncing it wrong.
So, we're going to start with the rise of Madame Lalaurie. Delphine McCarthy's upbringing in New Orleans was steeped in privilege and opulence, owing to her lineage as a member of one of the city's most distinguished Creole families. Born into a world of luxury in 1789, young Delphine was surrounded by the trappings of wealth and social prominence from an early age. Her family's esteemed reputation within New Orleans Creole community ensured that she received the finest education and enjoyed all the privileges befitting her status. In 1800, at the tender age of 13, Delphine embarked on her journey into matrimony, entering into a union with Don Ramon de Lopez y Anguilo, a distinguished figure in Spanish colonial circles. Other accounts state that it actually started as a torrid affair between the 13-year-old Delphine and 35-year-old Ramon. When the affair was discovered, marriage was forced upon them within 6 months. But it was not because she was pregnant. It was just because of the scandal.
How does a 13-year-old have an affair with a 35-year-old?
Well, back then, I think it was a case where
I still feel like that was weird then too.
It is, to me, it is. But I'm thinking I can't imagine that a 13-year-old would willingly
with a 30,
go into
right.
that. Yes. So I don't know how that happened, but Ramon actually was a high-ranking official. I can't remember in what exactly. Maybe when we read on, we will see that he was high-ranking. Yes. Okay. So the marriage not only solidified Delphine's position within New Orleans elite circles, but also served as a testament to the family's influence and connections. However, in 1805, a tragedy struck when Don Ramon passed away prematurely. His death was not fully explained, but it is said that the sheep both he and Delphine were traveling on, ran aground, and he died from this. So, in the research portion of it, it was also said that his superiors were not pleased. Like he did not get permission to marry, but he did it anyway because I mean it was being forced, and he was called back to Spain. I can't remember the full details, but I can't remember if it was the case where he was coming back from like they had to make a stop in Cuba. So coming from Havana, it's either they were coming back to the US or they were going to Spain when the ship the ship sunk.
Okay.
That's yeah, that's what it was. So basically he died prematurely and he left Delphine a young widow and burdened with the weight of her grief and the newfound responsibilities as she gave birth to their daughter only or sorry, they gave birth to her child, their only child, only a few days later. Undeterred by adversity, Delphine emerged resilient and determined to carve out her own path in society. In 1807, she soon found companionship and stability in her second marriage to Jean Blanc, who was a multifaceted figure known for his roles as a merchant, lawyer, banker, state legislator, and political operative. This man had so many careers.
So
Additionally,
basically just a regular politician nowadays.
yes, he had a little bit of everything going on for him. So, additionally, he played a significant part in the slave trade, cementing his reputation as a major player in this dark industry. Notably, Bluck maintained close ties with infamous pirates Jean and Pierre Lafitte, further adding to his enigmatic persona. Together, they formed a formidable power couple, the union blessed with the birth of 4 children. Following Bluff's demise in 1815, Delphine found herself tasked with the daunting challenge of settling his considerable debts while single-handedly raising their 5 young children. 5 because I guess he probably adopted the older one as well.
Yeah.
However, through a combination of an inheritance from her father and her astute business acumen, Delphine managed to stabilize her financial situation. By the time she crossed paths with Louis Lalaurie, she had ascended to a position of considerable wealth and influence.
So wait, how did Blanc die?
I don't recall reading what he died
I
of.
was just curious if she has like a history of losing husbands early.
Like a Black Widow type of history. I'm not sure for that one. Um, okay, so it was Delphine's third marriage, however, to Louis Lalaurie that would thrust her into the annals of history. A French physician, Lalaurie's arrival in New Orleans marked the beginning of a new chapter in Delphine's life. Monsieur Lalaurie is frequently depicted as being described as a modest and meek individual. The couple got married 5 months after the birth of their son in January of 1828. Delphine was 41 years old and Louis was 24.
Jeez.
And yes. And on the day of their wedding, Delphine stipulated in a contract that she would maintain control over her personal assets, real estate, and slaves, all valued at $67,000 at the time. I guess that was her prenup. She's like, you're not taking anything from me.
It's all mine.
So rumor had it that the marriage was unhappy and full of conflict. Delphine petitioned the courts for legal separation from her husband in 1832, alleging physical abuse, which was eventually granted. Eyewitness accounts describe Delphine as a woman prone to mood swings, ranging from charming affability to violent outbursts. Many people believe that these irregular acts reflected an underlying mental illness, and around the same time, stories began to circulate regarding Delphine's bad treatment of her slaves, with many reporting them to be haggard and wretched. When in public, Delphine was generally cordial to Black people and concerned about the health of her slaves. However, the suspicions persisted, and by 1832, a local lawyer was dispatched to Royal Street to remind Lalaurie of the regulations governing slave upkeep. However, on this visit, the lawyer discovered no proof of wrongdoing or mistreatment by Lalaurie, and after the investigation, Madame Lalaurie paid for legal services and sold several of her slaves. The Lalaurie Mansion, it was constructed in the 1830s amid the vibrant streets of New Orleans French Quarter. It is rather, because it's still standing, situated at 1140 Royal Street, and it stood practically as a veritable palace, a testament to the Lalaurie's opulence and social standing. Away from the prying eyes of society, Lalaurie's true nature was revealed, a nature steeped in cruelty and depravity that defied comprehension. Her mansion transforming from a symbol of wealth and prestige into a chamber of horrors, and where her darkest impulses found expression. Behind locked doors and hidden passages, enslaved individuals toiled in servitude, their lives subject to the whims of their merciless mysteries. They endured unimaginable sufferings at her hands, their cries for mercy drowned out by the sounds of revelry that echoed through the halls. It was a secret that could not remain hidden forever. In April of 1834, a fire broke out within the mansion, consuming everything in its path and laying bare the horrors that it had long concealed within. As the flames licked hungrily at the Lalaurie Mansion, a sense of panic swept through the streets of New Orleans. Bystanders rushed to the scene, helping to put the fire out. Finally, as the flames subsided and the smoke began to clear, authorities cautiously entered the charred remains of the mansion. Amidst the debris and devastation, they stumbled upon a scene of unimaginable horror. Slaves, emaciated and broken, were found chained to walls and confined in cages, their bodies bearing the unmistakable marks of unspeakable abuse.
Oh, wow.
Some had been subjected to brutal beatings, their flesh torn and bruised from repeated lashings. Others bore the scars of burns and mutilations, evidence of the sadistic torture inflicted upon them by the merciless captors. Shackled in chains, they cowered in fear, their eyes haunted by the trauma they had endured. But perhaps most chilling of all were the signs of medical experimentation that had been inflicted upon the helpless souls trapped within the mansion's walls.
Why though? Like, she wasn't a doctor or anything. Like,
her husband was a doctor.
Oh, that's right. Okay, but wasn't he dead?
No, this one. They were separated.
Oh.
He was living in another house at the time, but we'll come. I think I mentioned it later on. But they were at the time of separation. He was living in another house in the countryside, but at the time of the fire, he was at the house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Some had limbs amputated, their bodies bearing the crude marks of surgical procedures carried out without anesthesia or regard for their suffering. Others had been subjected to grotesque experiments, their bodies mutilated in the name of science and curiosity. I know it's a gruesome topic, I mean, in regards to experimentation on the bodies, but I was curious if there was any more mention of what types of experiments, but nothing I didn't find anything that had an in-depth discussion of what exactly those experimentations were, apart from what I've mentioned here.
I keep like imagining it was like what the Nazis did to the Jews.
Yes, maybe so. It may be so.
Hey there, Black Cat Crossing fans! We just wanted to take a moment to express our heartfelt gratitude. Thank you for tuning in and being a part of our community. Your support means the world to us. If you're loving this episode, don't forget to check out our other Black Cat Crossing outlets for even more thrilling content. Your continued support keeps us growing strong. Thanks again for listening, and now back to our exciting show.
Funeral registers from 1830 to 1834 document the deaths of 12 slaves at the Royal Mansion, though the causes of the deaths were not specified. Among them were Born, a cook and laundress, and her 4 children. Born, previously enslaved by a refugee from Saint Domingue. Is it? I don't know if it's Saint Domingue or if it's just Saint Domingue.
I don't
Was
know.
yeah, was noted as a chronic runaway, reflecting the tensions and fears surrounding individuals, or rather slaves, in Louisiana during that period. Martineau recounted tales of cruelty, including an incident where an 8-year-old slave girl, Leah, fell to her death from the mansion's roof while attempting to evade punishment from Madame Lalaurie. Martineau claimed that an investigation ensued, resulting in the forfeiture of 9 slaves from the Lalaurie household. However, these individuals were reportedly repurchased by the Lalauries through a relative and returned to their service.
Wait a second. Why were only 9 of the slaves removed? Like, wouldn't
I don't know,
you
because
like think if they were being terrible to these 9 slaves, they were being terrible to all of them?
then remember, slaves were
Yeah,
property.
I know. But I mean, yeah, I guess I'm.
So
It's
although I guess it was a way like to punish, like it's a form of punishment, like a fine, basically, I would think. Like that was their way of fining her for not keeping to the treatment of her property, quote unquote.
it just seems
So
so like hypocrisy. Like, you have to treat your slaves well, but you're allowed to have slaves. Like, I don't know.
yeah,
It's just like a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
it it is. It really is. So the responders to the fire, the people who helped with the fire and helped put out the fire, they discovered a 70-year-old cook chained to the stove, claiming she had probably set the fire as a attempted suicide.
Oh wow.
Uh, yeah. So they think that's what actually caused the fire because she was chained there. She imagine being chained to the stove. Anyway, when the Lalauries refused to allow access to the slave quarters, the rescuers took matters into their own hands, knocking down the doors to reveal a terrifying scene. Bystanders found 7 individuals horrifically mutilated and suspended by their necks. Their limbs appeared to be stretched and ripped, implying a long and torturous confinement, and witnesses reported the slaves as famished and covered with scars and imprisoned in restricted positions with spiked iron collars around their necks.
Jesus.
Furthermore, tales emerge of grisly discoveries in the attic where dead remains were purportedly found, disfigured beyond recognition. The judge at the time, Judge Jean-François Connage, among those who entered the premises, testified to finding a Black woman wearing an iron collar and an elderly woman with a severe head wound. As authorities surveyed the scene before them, a sense of disbelief and revulsion washed over the crowd, their minds struggling to comprehend the depth of cruelty that could drive a person to commit such heinous acts. And it says something that, I mean, like I said, back then, slavery, if you were a slave, you were basically property. And as much as there was some really severe punishments going around for it to be, it to cause a shockwave through the people that were gathered there at the time.
Right, and this is like 30, like, right, like 30 years before slavery ended in the States.
Mhm.
What years did this happen?
It's like 1830, between 1831 to 34.
Okay, so yeah, about 30 years before like slavery in the States ended. So like the fact that even like these people were horrified by what they're seeing,
Mhm.
like it had to be really fucking bad.
Yeah, it is. It is. When questioned, Louis Lalaurie responded insolently, indicating resistance to outside interference. So both he and Delphine, they were not cooperating. They did not want persons. I mean, and your house is burning down. Can you imagine? Your house is burning down, but you know very well what people are going to be finding. So you are adamant that you don't want anybody coming in and seeing your true face, basically.
What did they think
Your,
like was gonna happen? Like, I mean, your house is burning down. At some point, somebody's going into it, whether it's construction people to rebuild or to tear down. Like, people are gonna find this. You're not keeping this a
but I,
secret at this point.
but I guess they did not even anticipate. Well, I guess they didn't really think that there was going to be a fire in the first place. They
Well,
they,
right.
they probably figured, like, you know how, and whenever, like, when you're a child, when you're doing something you know you're not supposed to do, and when you're caught, you're still surprised that you're caught, but you know you're in a shitload of trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, like
I just
that's.
can't, I just can't picture like grown ass adults being like, nope, you can't come in here, nothing to see. Like,
No,
what?
it happens even now. It happens even now. Like
Yeah, I don't
when I
understand
watch
that now
news
either.
clips, yeah, it was a scene that would haunt the city for generations to come, casting a shadow over the once glamorous streets of the French Quarter and serving as a chilling reminder of the horrors that lurk beneath the surface of human civilization. In the chaotic aftermath of the fire that consumed the mansion, Madame Lalaurie and her husband hastily fled New Orleans, leaving behind the city reeling in shock of the news of the horror that was uncovered. Laurie's life after the 1834 fire marked a self-imposed exile to France, and it was mainly shrouded in mystery. Uh, I think they fled, from what I read, they fled to his family's estate in France. Yet, amidst the clamor of accusations and condemnations, one question lingered. What drove Madame Lalaurie to commit such atrocities? While some insisted that Madame Lalaurie had been complicit in the abuse of her slaves, others argued that she had been oblivious to the horrors unfolding under her roof, her actions driven by ignorance rather than malice.
Bullshit.
You think? I knew you'd say that.
Bullshit. There's no way you don't know that's going on in your house.
Exactly.
And if she didn't
Uh,
know, then why did she have an issue with them coming inside?
exactly. Exactly. Now,
Your house was
all of
already
this,
burnt down.
exactly. Now, all of this, all of what we just discussed, that whole history, is just to bring a point the paranormal aspect of it now. So there have been various accounts of paranormal activity associated with the Lalaurie
I
Mansion throughout
would
its history.
imagine.
hmm The
There's no.
reported
I'm sorry.
incidents. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
There's just no way that that much horror happens and something to not be left behind.
Yes, some kind of essence is going to be left behind. I feel like it's seeped into the
Right.
grounds of the mansion.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The reported incidents range from strange occurrences to full-blown hauntings, adding to the mansion's dark and mysterious reputation. The details of the alleged murder that occurred in the mansion after its conversion into an apartment complex are not extensively documented. However, according to local legends and stories, the tenant's death was surrounded by unusual circumstances that suggested a possible paranormal involvement. one of the tenants there suffered a horrific end when he was brutally murdered in his room. His possessions were found haphazardly arranged as though someone had dug through them. And despite the obvious indicators of a robbery, no valuables were discovered missing, which puzzled the police. But then how would they know what was the valuables?
Well, not only that, like, that almost sounds like someone who
Like
knew.
staged?
Well, yeah, like someone knew, like he knew, this person knew whoever killed them, and it was staged to look like a robbery to cover tracks.
Yeah. But then, during the investigation, neighbors were interviewed about the tenant's the tenant's death. And one friend recounted a disturbing detail. The victim had confided in him about experiencing disturbances from sprites, supposedly, within his home. While initially dismissed as his imagination, the friend recalled an unsettling remark made by the victim. He claimed that there was a malevolent presence, a demon, within the house that would not rest until he met his demise. Tragically, this prophecy seemed to be fulfilled within the very walls of the mansion. Unfortunately, like I said, specifics about the victim, the manner of the death, and any concrete evidence regarding the paranormal aspect are very scarce. And instead, the incident is often cited as part of the mansion's broader history of paranormal activities and hauntings. And due to the lack of detailed information, the story remains just a part of the mansion's lore and adds to its reputation as a site of supernatural intrigue and mystery. But during the mid to late 19th century, the mansion briefly served as a school for girls, albeit amidst a backdrop of shifting political dynamics in the post-Reconstruction New Orleans. Originally, it functioned as one of the city's few integrated schools. However, as political tensions escalated, the institute underwent a transformation, eventually becoming exclusively African-American primary school.
I don't know how I'd feel about going to a school where my people were tortured.
Yes. Do you think they knew the history of it?
I mean, I would imagine.
Not when you go in there, probably
no,
not
maybe
as...
not going in, but like, I mean, the people who made it a school obviously knew the history of it.
Yeah.
Like, that just, I don't know. That seems fucked up.
But then, it is very much so. But then it reveals itself, I guess, because soon after the transition, troubling reports of physical assaults began to emerge. Distressed young girls would approach the teachers, tears staining their cheeks, sleeves rolled up to reveal scratched and bruised forearms, and whenever the children were asked who harmed them, they all responded similarly with the response of "that woman." But it's weird because I would think that she would have probably died overseas. So unless she came back to the country.
Her spirit could have been like bound to the...
It is possible.
I don't know.
It is possible. I did read further on though, and it said that we'll discuss it after. Let me just go finish, because we're almost there. It is unlikely that these girls, as young as they were aware of Madame Delphine and the awful events that occurred many decades before. Furthermore, it appears improbable that the teachers would have revealed such a dark past to the youngsters at such a young age. So this raises the questions of whether the girls were simply playing pranks or if their accusations of being wounded by a phantom woman were genuine. Unfortunately, no journals from this time survived, leaving only fragmented tales to consider.
I mean, it could be a case of where that woman wasn't necessarily like a ghost, but like an actual teacher or a person of authority at the school.
It could be. But why not just name the name and why say that woman?
I mean, maybe it's a case of like the people in charge would have known who that woman was. I'm sure there would have been signs.
Yeah, possible. It is possible.
Or it could have just been a case of, you
It
know,
doesn't even necessarily mean that it was her, not necessarily Delphine, because if um maybe if you died in a bad way and you yourself are a malevolent spirit, you would possibly haunt the place and try to cause harm.
yeah,
So it could be any one of these ways.
right. And sometimes people will do terrible things to their own people because it's easier
There,
for them to survive that way.
that's true too. That is true too. So, as we take a look at the history of the Lalaurie Mansion, we are left with more questions than answers. Its walls hold secrets that have intrigued and terrified generations, from the horrors of Madame Delphine's reign to the unsettling tales of the paranormal activity and mysterious assaults within its walls. But despite the passage of time, the mansion stands as a testament to the darker aspects of New Orleans' past, reminding us of the atrocities that can lurk behind the grandest facades. Whether the tales of ghostly apparitions or spectral encounters are rooted in truth or myth, the Lalaurie Mansion continues to captivate the imagination, drawing visitors and storytellers alike to its haunting embrace.
Unlock the secrets of Whispering Wonders Antique Shop with an exclusive short story, The Haunted Doll. Delve into the chilling tale of Emma and the malevolent doll that refuses to be forgotten. Available only to supporters on Ko-fi or Patreon. Will Emma escape its sinister grip, or will she become a mere puppet in its dark game? Support now to access this exclusive story.
And so we bid farewell to Lalaurie Mansion. No, before I say that, I want to add that um, it is closed for tours now because it is now privately owned. So it is closed for tours, but before you could have taken a tour and just go through and see. I think when I was reading, let me just pull that up quickly because there was a famous person. Oh, it was also part of the fun fact, the American Horror Story.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it
I mean,
was
I've
there.
I've never watched American Horror Story. I started the first season, and then my sister ruined it for me. You know they're all dead,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Oh, me too. I think I only watched the first season as well. And actually Nicolas Cage owned the house for a short time.
Let me tell you how I'm not unsurprised by Nicolas Cage owning anything.
It's still widely considered to be one of the most haunted houses in New Orleans.
I would imagine it's part of the Haunted New Orleans tours. I'm sure they
Yeah,
don't go into it, but I bet anything they stop in front of it and discuss it.
they do. They do that when they do the tours. They do that. They can't go in anymore. They can't do like guided tours inside because even once I was reading, some guides had some experiences, paranormal experiences as well. Now we can see we bid farewell to the Lalaurie Mansion. It's a place where history and legend intertwine. And until the next time, our listeners, may you navigate the darkness with courage and curiosity, knowing that the truth may be closer than we dare to imagine.
Join us next time as we delve into another perplexing mystery, seeking answers and shedding light on the darkest corners of the unknown. Until then, remember to stay curious and keep searching for the truth. Be sure to visit our website, www.blackcatcrossing.co. Drop us an email at blackcatcrossingzabs@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram at Black Cat Crossing Podcast, or head over and follow the Facebook page, Black Cat Crossing Podcast. We'll see you again
In the unknown.